and welcome to this episode of Artsably in Conversation. My name is Diane Collin. I am a woman with short hair, blue eyes, and glasses, and today I wear a black top. Behind me are an electronic piano and white shelves with books. This series presents artists, academics, and project leaders who dedicate their time and energy to a better accessibility for people with disabilities in the arts. You can find more of these conversations on our website, artsably.com, which is spelled artsably.com. Today, Artsably is in conversation with Alex Massey, a writer, a musician, and a communication specialist living in Vancouver. You can find the resources mentioned by Alex Massey during this episode on Artsably's website in the blog section. Welcome to this new episode of Artsably in Conversation. Today, I am with Alex Massey, who is a writer, a musician, and also a communication specialist, and they live in Vancouver, in BC. Thank you for being here, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
That's great, thanks. So I always start by asking a little bit about your background, if you can present yourself, and also if you can provide a visual description.
Okay. Hello. My name is Alex K. Massey. I use they, them pronouns, and I work in what is colloquially known as Vancouver and the Greater Vancouver area. I'm actually kind of just outside Vancouver, but I like to say Vancouver because a lot of people don't know the various other areas. But yeah, I like to say I do just about anything with words and sounds. And as for a visual description, I am a young, white, kind of pale, dark, curly haired little femme entity. Uh, yeah, I'm currently wearing just a nice little purple sweater and my big old headphones, which have completely covered the little hair clips I put in today, but that's fine. And it's a good thing this is a podcast because I tend to gesticulate wildly when I talk, and that can be a little distracting.
Thank you. Well, I know you're doing a lot of things. Your website is incredibly rich with activities, even
Thank
if you
you.
say that it's going to be updated. I mean, there is already a lot of things to explore in that. And I know that you are doing a lot of artistic, like poetry. You write plays. You produce, you perform music. You compose. You do sound design. So can you tell a little bit about first of all what kind of education did you do, and what are you doing now in terms of academic and artistic activities?
Well, as both a writer and musician, I primarily consider myself to be a mix of self-taught and community taught. That's a term that I like to throw around because I really feel like you can learn so much from like a local art scene and local creative scene. I owe so much to mentorship that I've received in both writing and music and just general art stuff from yeah, local theaters and organizations and all that. My background artistically is I've been writing since I was a kid. I did really good in English classes, but I never really like got any professional training in that. And as for music, the only like quote unquote professional training I've ever had would be I did concert band all through high school. Yeah, but I decided at some point that I wanted to be able to pursue both of those seriously, and I just kind of started. I just opened up Microsoft Word and started penning away little plays and scripts and novels and poems and stuff. And I downloaded a free music production software and pretty much taught myself that. The free ones are pretty limited, but I think that I did a pretty good job with what little I had. I still cringe when I listen to my old stuff, but I feel like everyone does. And it's just exciting in a way to be like, wow, I've really grown a lot. And yeah, I like to thank the community that I have in Vancouver, what is colonially known as Vancouver, for everything that it's done in helping to uplift me and stuff. And I also, in a way, like to thank my neurodivergence because I'm very lucky to have a brain that's totally cool to just sit down and focus on something for hours on end and find so much joy in that. And yeah, I don't know, art has been very healing for me. I'm someone with multiple disorders going on up here. I have autism, OCD, PTSD, and all of those kind of just like jangle together and tangle together. And art has always been kind of a refuge for that from some of the rougher stuff. And it's also just been a means of expressing some of the beauty that I find in having a mind like mine. Like, I like to write poetry about being autistic. I like to write poetry about like celebrating what that can look like. And I like to write poetry about healing and stuff. And on the musical side of things, people call my music quote unquote stimmy and say that it like brings them joy to listen to as neurodivergent people. So, yeah.
And your music is also, I think, very inspired by video games and this
Mhm.
universe, right?
Yeah, I grew up playing a lot of video games, or at least the same handful of video games a lot. I had a Nintendo DS that went everywhere with me. I became absolutely enamored with the worlds and storytelling and the soundscapes. And I actually learned flute, my first instrument, by just learning I would get better at flute just by playing like video game songs. I would find sheet music made by fans, and that's how I became more acquainted with music.
But today you play another kind of instrument,
I
right?
do. I
What is your
play,
instrument?
I can go grab it actually. Okay, it should be plugged in now. I juggle with a handful of things. I have like a kalimba that I use sometimes. I still bust out my flute every once in a blue moon. I actually just bought a keyboard and a bass this year, but my signature instrument is generally the Suzuki Q chord. And I don't really know how I would describe this for people in the podcast world, but it's this nice dark purple instrument with a lot of buttons, and it's kind of shaped like a guitar from like the future, except it's not from the future. It's from the future that people were imagining in 2000. So yeah, that's the
Really, yeah.
instrument. Yeah,
And it's called what? A Suzuki Q
Q
chord, right?
chord.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's part of a line from Suzuki called the Omnichord, kind of. This was the newest version for a very long time. They're actually making a new model, which I did not buy because it's $900 and I don't have that kind of money, but mainly because I bought other instruments in this year and I can't justify buying another. But yeah, the Suzuki Q chord is, as it says on the front, a digital song card guitar. And basically, it plays like an electric auto harp, if you're acquainted with what an auto harp is. And if not, basically, it's impossible to be out of tune because there are little buttons that correspond to chords. And if you press the right buttons, you can just play little arpeggios in that chord. And yeah, I really like using it.
Okay, so it's a mix between a keyboard and a bass or something like that.
I mean, I guess it's kind of like it's a guitar built like an auto harp.
Okay. I
Yeah.
see.
I don't know. It's complicated, but it's also very simple. The learning curve with playing it is very straightforward, and that's part of what drew me to it for a really long time because I wanted to be a songwriter and I wanted to be a performer, but the only other instrument that I knew how to play at the time was flute, and flute is not the most accommodating to it's not the most accommodating to that because it's
So
hard to sing and play flute at the same
yeah,
time.
I was going to say you sing and play at the same time when you're doing that.
Yeah. Like
Very good.
there's probably some way to do it with like a copious amount of loop pedals and the like, but I figured it would be easier to just find one of these and pick it up and do that.
Okay, very good. I wanted to go back to your poetry.
Hmm.
So are you reciting publicly this poetry, or are you just writing it for your pleasure and to share it with others?
A bit of both, honestly. Like poetry started as something that I just did on the page. I started writing poetry, like I started taking it kind of seriously in like senior year of high school when creative writing club became a thing at my high school, and I just had a lot of fun with it. And on a whim, I submitted to the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, which are this thing that I think is all across North America, or maybe it's all international. I don't know, but I submitted a bunch of stuff on a whim, including a couple random poems, and I got like a gold key from them, which isn't something that comes with money, but they gave me like a little pin and a fancy piece of paper, and that made me think like, oh, maybe this is something that I'm like halfway decent at. Because
Mm.
before that, I considered myself primarily a writer of prose, and I don't really have a lot of that professionally released or do it much on a professional level right now. But it is something that has always been close to my heart. But poetry, yeah, I just kind of fell into poetry. I ended up reading at a friend's gallery opening because they asked me to. And then I ended up stumbling into a poetry mentorship. And from there, I've just kind of constantly found myself drifting into like the poetry scene across the lower mainland.
And you also wrote articles about
Mhm.
your work, right? Can you tell
Yeah.
about that?
Um, Articles. Yeah, I write articles on a freelance basis, generally about either like media and pop culture or my personal lived experiences because I definitely feel like I haven't had the most conventional kind of journey as an artist. I feel like a lot of people they either start from nothing or they go to art school and I'm in some weird in between where it's like I didn't go to art school. I'm a communication major for goodness sake, but I am someone who has a community that I owe so much to, and, like, not just as a creative, but also as, like, a queer person, a neurodivergent person, a mentally ill person. I owe so much of who I am to the local art scene, and that's something that I rarely see discussed. So just being able to, like, go out and, like, write little odes to that, and how music has helped me, and how the art scene has helped me, and how I self-advocate as a queer and neurodivergent person, those are all important to me.
Okay, and also I read that you are hosting a podcast.
I co-created a podcast.
Ah,
Yeah, it was this lovely little, it was this project with the Future Perfect Project, which is an American, organization that dedicates itself to platforming and uplifting the voices of young queer folks. I'm actually gonna be aging out of their curriculum this year, which is a little sad, but hey, there are good things that come with being 24. But yeah, I was involved in this cohort for this podcast that eventually became called I'm Feeling Queer Today. I did help co-host a couple of episodes and like put things together. I wrote some music for it. I did a segment on it. I appeared in a couple other segments on it. And yeah, it was a really exciting opportunity. I really love the world of podcasting and it's just really cool to be able to be involved in that.
and as a communicator,
Mhm.
um, so what is the influence of everything you're creating to your communication skills?
Well, when I work on communications, that's generally like a job that isn't just me. Like I've worked for Simon Fraser University's Vancity Office of Community Engagement. I've worked for a couple local nonprofits. And when I work in communication for like other organizations, it's all about just being able to put forward their messages and stuff and use my skills to just kind of like get that out there. But when it comes to like my own work, I definitely do try to keep something of a cohesive narrative because like and that isn't easy because I'm someone who refuses to niche down, which in the social media world is somewhat masochistic and troublesome, but I'm stubborn. I refuse to be just a musician. I refuse to be just a writer. Those are both so important to me and they so often overlap. I just I shan't be reduced to either of those. I really need to stop saying shan't. I'm really bad at that. But yeah, I've tried to craft like something of a narrative that is quote unquote social media slash algorithm friendly, but also I don't know. You have to pick your battles when you're a creative person trying to communicate your practice and stuff. Like I will probably never be fully comprehensible and algorithm friendly. I mean, I bid farewell to that the second I started being openly queer and disabled, but I don't know. I think that I strike a pretty good balance.
I think so too. And I think that there is nothing wrong with having a diversity of
Mhm.
activities and in a way they all connect to each other through your personality.
Yeah, and, like, no matter what medium I'm in, even if I'm, like, writing newsletters for a day job, I'm still storytelling. Like, that's, I think, the, like, combined total of everything I do. That storytelling is somewhere in all of it.
Mhm.
Like, for a while, I was playing with the idea of labeling myself as a bard, because that's less of a mouthful, And it just kind of brings to mind this image of a person who can play instruments and can like can speak poetry and can sing and can like recite myths and write myths and like combine and alchemize stories, and that's kind of what I do. I guess I'm something of a modern bard.
Plus, the auto harp goes very well with the bard.
Yeah. Yeah, it can actually get battery powered, so I can just like walk around playing it. I used to do that with my flute during the pandemic. I was really bored and I have a park by my house, so I just run around playing flute. It was actually kind of a hit. People now know me as Flute Girl. And while I'm not a girl, I am too lazy to correct them. I live in a neighborhood with a lot of older people who probably have never met someone who uses they, them pronouns. It's like, yeah, I'll be Flute Girl for you. Why not? Why not?
So what are you working on right now? Is there a specific project you are focusing on?
Well, as of now, hang on, let me check my calendar. How long has it been? It's been 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. It has been just over 3 weeks since I had my play Phase Room at the Roundhouse. That was incredible. For those not aware, the Roundhouse is this lovely venue in what is colonially known as Vancouver, like smack in the middle of downtown Vancouver. It's really lovely. It's right by the water. I go there a lot for like things like festivals and events. I'm probably going to be going there again this month because I have a friend who's got like some stuff being exhibited there. But yeah, I had my play at the Roundhouse through Real Wheels Theater, which was an incredible privilege and an incredible opportunity. And I was just so honored to see my silly little play that I started writing back in 2023 just come to life. Actually, I think I started writing it in 2022. I digress. It's one of those projects that I just started on a whim. It started with a single image, and suddenly there was a whole cast of characters, and suddenly I was in a writing cohort with people who were like cheering it on, and then I got a first stage reading, and then last August I was asked by one of my creative mentors, Sean McDonald, reached out and was like, "Hey, do you want to bring this to Real Wheels Theater and have this read?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And I don't know how much I can say quite yet. I don't know, but I will say that there will be more with this play. I'm not done with it yet, and I'm really excited for that. But in the meantime, honestly, right now, my big priorities are just kind of getting all my stuff together and trying to graduate. Not very artistic stuff, more bureaucratic things. I'm trying to write a CV for the first time ever, wrapping up some artistic commissions that I can't talk about because they're commissions, like scoring things that haven't been released yet, working on collaborations that haven't been released yet. I have a song coming out in June, so that's very exciting. It's called King's Ruby, and it's about it's about two characters from the Moomin franchise because I really like the Moomins and I had the opportunity to write about them for Pride Month. But yeah, right now my main priorities are trying to create a CV for the first time and trying to graduate.
Mhm.
Yep, BA in communication with a minor in publishing.
Yay. Well, yeah, that's fingers crossed for that. I know that I don't think you're gonna have an issue to graduate, right?
I shouldn't. I have after this semester because I am taking a couple courses. It is summer, but I'm stubborn and I want to get out of here before 2025. After this semester, I should only have one course remaining. So that's really exciting. Just any third year communication course. And I'm really hoping that I get something fun and very niche. Earlier last year, I got to write about I got to take a course all about popular music and culture and like the production of aesthetics and culture through popular music. And I wrote a whole essay comparing two genres I really enjoy. And like that's the kind of thing that I love using my major for. I know that it's not as like useful as some of the more applicable stuff, like the things that I've actually done in my communication jobs, but it's also just really nice and enjoyable being able to just chew on things through like various academic lenses. I don't know. I find a lot of joy in a lot of very nerdy things.
Plus, just know that when you're writing about a variety of topics,
Hmm.
they like that. They like to
Yeah.
know that you're not focused on only one little thing, that you open
Hmm.
your mind, that you can write about different topics. So yeah,
Yeah.
continue doing that. That's
That's
very
the plan. I honestly, I might add like an academic essay section to my portfolio website because that, if only just to put that essay that I wrote last year on there. It's so nerdy. I was comparing new wave music and hyperpop music, but my prof loved it and I loved it. And yes, the bibliography was like 3 pages long, but it's fine.
Welcome to the academic world. Ah.
Yeah. Profs at my university keep asking me if I want to do a master's, but it's like I've been in school for about 20 years straight now. I kind of want a break.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to go back to your play. So you said your
Yes.
play was over now, right?
Yeah, it just had it had a one single staged reading last month. It was called Phase Room. It was very exciting. There's more coming with it. I don't know what's been announced yet, so I can't say more, but there is more in the works with Phase Room, and it's this play that's really close to my heart.
And can you give us the pitch, what it is about at
Oh,
least?
absolutely. I wrote down the pitch actually. I did a whole I did like a whole package for it because I was just so thrilled that it was getting staged for a second time. Yeah, it's called Phase Room and it's about neurodivergent solidarity, intergenerational bonds, and internalized ableism, and it thrusts viewers into the autistic lens, a world of living mannequins, traveling rooms, and ghosts. It follows Faye Murphy, an autistic lesbian who works at a queer cafe and happens to have the power to summon and hide in a magical sensory room at will. When she becomes trapped in this room with her least favorite coworker, son of the founder and token heterosexual Chase McClure, an unlikely bond forms, and the two find themselves having a bit more in common than they had thought.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Interesting. It's gonna be great.
yeah, it's kind of like a fabulous kind of story. It started as kind of like wish fulfillment, where it was like, okay, I wish I had a room that could just magically appear and be like a safe space for me whenever I get overwhelmed. And yeah, from there it just became this whole project about like internalized ableism and like asking questions about like how how can one get over internalized ableism and what is like a healthy relationship that one can have with neurodivergence and how can we unlearn those things that we've been told about ourselves for so long.
So if someone is listening to this podcast and saying, wow, I want to do like Alex, I want to gather all my ideas and put that into a play or into something, what should they do next?
Well, if you want to create something, there are two pieces of advice that I was given in like my first ever creative mentorship, and it was just to do like even just a little bit every day. Like my minimum that I try to do is like 200 words a day if it's a writing thing, or like 10 minutes a day if it's a music thing. Just like those little like iterative blocks. You so often end up doing so much more, like just so much more, but even on your worst days, you can probably hit that 200 or 10-minute milestone. And then the other thing that I was told like 4 or 5 years ago now was probably writing is rewriting. It's just this concept of being able to just like lock your inner perfectionist in a closet for a while and get a first draft out. First drafts, they are like almost never great. There's this thing that I like to tell people that they generally get a kick out of. My mother is a huge Stephen King fan, so I grew up with him as like kind of like this mythologized figure. And I heard all these stories about how he wrote this one novel of his, Cujo, while he was on a serious bender with a multitude of substances, and he doesn't remember writing it at all, so he got to read it and experience it for the first time. But like, what I'd like to say is we can't all be Stephen King writing Cujo on a bender. Most of us are not Stephen King. And maybe that's a good thing because we don't need the man's already writing like a gazillion books a year. We do not need more Stephen King stuff out there. The man's a factory himself. But the point of that little that little line is your first draft will probably not be good, and that's okay. So much of writing is in the editing process. And that's scary because a lot of people don't like to think of themselves as editors, but you have to get to know your work before you can really start like spiffing it up. If you try to revise something before you've even finished it, you just end up with like a mess. It's like trying to like draw something without sketching. I don't know. My girlfriend's like a visual artist. I don't know any of that, but I know that you sketch first.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I have a last question, which is
Mhm.
about um, people you can think of who really encouraged you in your in all your process and or inspired you.
Mhm.
If you had one or two people to think of and to mention, who would it be and why?
Honestly, I don't even know. Like I guess that there are just so many ways to be like inspired by people. Like like I owe so much to my like I can't even name all of my mentors in the local art scene. Like everyone at Real Wheels, everyone at the Arts Club, everyone back at the Frank Theater, even though that was like 4 years ago, and all the people in between that were truly amazing. Like the team that I had at Phase Room, Sean and V and Jordan and my cast, absolutely perfect, absolutely just like a dream come true working with all of them and having my work be like shaped the way it has. But also like my friends and my girlfriend. And then on the complete other side of the spectrum, people I have never met and probably will never meet, like Tove Jansson for writing these whimsical stories. Literally, like my next song is based on Lumens. I can't not shut her out. Or like I compiled a list of quotes that I really like because I'm a nerd like that. And the most commonly cited authors were Mary Oliver and Terry Pratchett, who I've been reading a lot of. Yeah, I don't know. And musically, God, the entire new wave scene, the people who composed for the TV shows and video games I grew up with as a kid, it's just, I don't know, it's amazing. And sometimes I get compared to some of them, which is really cool. I'm pretty sure I just get told that I'm like Rebecca Sugar because I own this thing. For the people at home, I'm holding up my musical instrument, which was popularized by Rebecca Sugar. But I don't know. I take every comparison in stride. I love just my very eclectic mix of musical inspirations. Some of them are more obvious to the ear, others are more just like kind of a vibe. Like one of my favorite bands is Talking Heads, but you probably can't hear that a lot in my work. But that's okay, it's a vibe. It's just it's inspiration in the process. I don't know. I'm rambling. Basically, I find myself to be a whole web of inspirations. There are people I know, people who have mentored me, people I know personally, people I know artistically, people I know kind of artistically, kind of personally, like in between. And then there are just people who I look up to, and you can see that in my work. And there are people who I look up to who are so opposite from what I do.
Mhm.
Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the gist. And any artist who says that it's simpler than that is lying.
Well, yes, it's true that we are all getting inspiration from multiple sources, and that's a good thing.
Mhm.
It keeps us like seeing other things that might give you an opportunity to create a new universe or a new
Yeah. Yeah, I recently read about this term called worlding, which is basically this concept of like being able to create worlds and storytelling and stuff through like various creative means. Like it's not just world building in the fantasy sense. I actually just finished an essay on that, and I'm gonna read another essay. No, I finished an essay that mentioned that, and I wanted to read the other essay where it was invented. It was by this guy called Ian Cheng. I've only like seen excerpts, but I'm really looking forward to diving into it. I don't know. Worlding, worlds, the multitude of inspirations, art as just something so cosmic and nebulous that it's hard to break down, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Well, thank you so much for all that, this great conversation and all these
Thank you for
thoughts.
having me. Yeah, I
And
know it can be a little bit a mile a minute. It could be because I'm a little sleep deprived. Pro tip, folks, do not travel 3 hours within like an hour of waking up. It's a little bit much, but if you do, bring a good book. I don't know. I can't drive. I bring a good book everywhere I travel.
well, get some rest.
Thank you. That's the plan.
Okay, thank you so much and
Thank you
have a
so
great
much.
day.
You have a great day too.
Bye.
Bye.